people of Ukraine have really stolen my heart. What it means to be European. Pacifism is a privilege.
Now I would like to ask you something more personal.
Okay, because that is the democracy we're in. Hello,
Hi.
good to see you.
Hello, Sher.
Hi.
How are you?
Welcome in The Hague. You're now at the City Hall of the city, and I wanted to show you this because The Hague is the international city for justice, peace and security. So I think especially for Ukrainians this is an important city.
This is our first interview for the Diaspora media project.
Oh, happy to be your guest.
Thank you so much, SJOERD, for joining us, introducing our viewers to this amazing building, The Hague City Hall. And I would like to read a quote that we took from one of your interviews. Ukraine has truly stolen my heart ever since I was the Director of Crisis Management for Ukraine at the Ministry of Social Affairs and Employment. And you know, using such words that it has stolen your heart, we really thought that you are the right person to start our project with.
Oh, that's very kind of you, and I'm very happy to be part of the project because it is really true. Ukraine, but especially the people of Ukraine, have really stolen my heart. I met so many incredible people and have so many new friends, and it's of course because of a very sad situation, because of the war, but I feel very thankful that I got to meet so many great people.
And I'm also thankful that despite the war and despite the negativity that surrounds it and the sadness, that we're able to find some positive side to it, such as also meeting new people, interacting with them and sharing our love for Ukrainian culture and for Ukrainian people. So let's maybe do a quick start with a few quick questions.
Oh dear.
You need to be very fast.
Yes.
Okay, first question. The Hague or Amsterdam?
Amsterdam.
Dumplings or borscht?
Dumplings. Varenikis.
Which filling?
I go for the sauerkraut. Yeah, I feel they're most traditional, and it are tastes that you think like, oh, will it be good? But actually it's really, really good. Yeah.
Herring or croquette?
Croquette.
Kaas croquette or
Yes, actually, yeah.
politics or reconstruction?
Politics.
Electric bike or regular bike?
Regular bike.
Pride or King's Day?
Pride.
To be the mayor of Amsterdam or to be the prime minister?
Prime Minister.
We know that you do a lot for Ukraine. You've been representing Ukrainian interests in the government. You've been part of the parliament, the D66 party, and also worked for the Ministry of Social Affairs to help Ukrainians be allowed to be able to work. What motivated you to do that? Do you have Ukrainian roots, perhaps? What is it?
Yeah, it feels very strange that all of a sudden I feel so connected to Ukraine and to Ukrainian people because I've never been to the country. And actually it was a bit of a coincidence that when the full-scale invasion started that I became the director for the Ukraine crisis for the Dutch government. But for me, it felt like a really historic moment, and I believe it is an historic moment in European history. The attack on Ukraine and the war on Ukraine is not only an attack on the country of Ukraine, but it's an attack on European values, democracy, rule of law, and human rights. And therefore, I think so many people in Europe felt that this is not just about the people of Ukraine, but it's about all of us, and we need to stand up for what's right.
That sounds lovely. And once again, thank you so much for everything you're doing and for supporting Ukraine.
Sure, and I think it's good to point out that it's not only Ukrainians that need to be thankful. I think if we look at the Netherlands, we should be thankful, first of all, because Ukrainian people are actually doing the fighting for Europe, but also Dutch society is benefiting so much from the contribution of Ukrainian people now in the Netherlands. Lots of people are working. They're working in childcare centers. They're working in distribution centers, in restaurants, as teachers, for companies in different cities. So we're working together. I would say it's a collaboration.
Right now there is over 100,000 Ukrainians in the Netherlands. Could you please tell us more? How has the Netherlands changed in these over 2 years? How has the Dutch society changed?
I feel that for a lot of people in the Netherlands, they didn't know much about Ukraine. They were maybe able to point it on the map, but they didn't know many Ukrainian people. They didn't know much about the Ukrainian culture and identity. But because there's so many Ukrainians now living in the Netherlands, integrating so well. My children go to the same school as Ukrainian children. My colleagues are Ukrainian. I think we see that we have so much in common with each other. We share a lot of values. We share a common history as well as Europeans. And I think that is beautiful to see.
So would you think that more Europeans are accepting or realizing that Ukraine is part of Europe?
For sure, yeah. I think you often identify yourself based on the other, and now with Russia really expressing its aggression so much, we all of a sudden realize what it means to be European and what values we share, and then we all of a sudden understand that Ukrainian people and Dutch people share a lot of values with each other.
I agree. How is it working with Ukrainians, interacting with them? What kind of people you see them?
Yeah. Well, my mission in all the work that I've done has always been nothing about us without us, that you need to include the people you're working for on a decision-making level. When I was working as director for the Ukraine crisis for the Dutch ministry, I also felt we need to get Ukrainian refugees in the team because they know best what Ukrainian people need at this very moment. And therefore I got to work with Ukrainian people from a very early stage already. What I noticed is that they can work very hard. That also in the restaurant that you ask people, okay, how many hours do you want to work? And people say, 50. I think, no, that's we work part-time, we work maximum 36 hours when we work for the government. Yeah. Of course, people work very hard in the Netherlands as well, and they're committed. But I do think, especially Ukrainian people, have a very strong desire to work very hard. It is their life now. Defending Ukraine, supporting the Ukrainian community in the Netherlands.
The official language and the working language in the Netherlands is Dutch. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How did it feel? Was it difficult to make the decision to hire someone, for example, working with the government who does not speak Dutch?
For me, that is really part of my ideals, to include the people who you're making policies and legislation for, that you include them on a decision-making level. So I really wanted to make that happen, and luckily I got the support from the two ministers. They said, yes, if you think this is important to reach your goals, then do it. But you often see that systems find that very difficult, that you have the legal person saying, yeah, but how is that possible? How can we do that? Or that there's a lot of resistance in the beginning. When people saw that it actually benefited the mission we were on, then everyone was on board. But within these very structured systems, like a government, like a ministry, they find it very difficult and challenging at first.
Yeah. But I'm glad to see they took it as a challenge, and it was successful in the end. And
it also has to do with the ideas people have of a refugee. A refugee is the other person. It's not our neighbor. It's not our co-worker. That is something Ukrainian people and Dutch people have really been able to show now, that it can happen to everyone. You are not a refugee. You are a person, a colleague, a mother, a father, who happened to be in a situation that you had to flee your country because there's a war. Could you describe Ukrainians if you only have 3 words? Devoted, ambitious, welcoming. Let's dive a little bit into Dutch politics. Is Ukraine still on the agenda in Dutch politics? Is it still
both in the internal and external discussions?
I feel we are in a very difficult stage at this moment. We have the demissionary cabinet, the cabinet that is officially not really ruling anymore. They were very devoted to Ukraine, with the Prime Minister Rutte, with the Minister of Defense, Ollongren, my own party D66. We always said we need to give Ukraine as much support as we can, also military support, not just financial support, but support the army. Only now, at this moment, there are negotiations between parties that are not all of them are committed to Ukraine. One party, like the PVV, has clearly said, why are we spending money on Ukraine? We should keep it for ourselves, for our own citizens, which is, I think, very naive. We're all looking at it with a bit of distress. We really hope that the security of everyone in Europe, that goes for Ukrainian people but also for Dutch people, is taken seriously, and that a new cabinet will also continue its support for Ukraine. I think it is one of the bigger topics that's on the negotiation table now.
It is definitely on the minds of Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Because you see how the Dutch government accelerates their support financially, and at the same time you see that the new coalition is perhaps not very supportive.
I think that analysis is very correct, that this demissionary government is trying to do whatever it can as long as they hold the seats. Only the election results have been well, a bit more negative for Ukraine, I would say, and we have to see how that will go. I do think in the end also the very right-wing parties like the PVV will understand that it's about the future of Dutch people as well as the future of all people in Europe.
Many Ukrainians now view Geert Wilders, the person whose party got the most votes in the elections, as the enemy of Ukraine. Do you think it's correct to put it that way?
I think we don't have the luxury to put it that way since he won the elections. He won a lot of seats and therefore we need to see him as a partner of Ukraine as well. He is the face of the party. His party has not other members, but there are different members of parliament that might have different views. I think the challenge now for people like you and people like me is to see how we can be a conversation partner for people within his party. Because that is the democracy we're in, and in my opinion, unfortunately, we have to deal with that. But yeah, we have to see him as a conversation partner rather than an enemy.
What do you think contributed to the winning of his party in the elections?
A very populist idea that migration is the main topic that influences our daily lives. I believe that the housing crisis we are actually in and other crises, migration is just a very small factor in that. Only it's so much more easier to make people believe that that is the biggest crisis we are facing. And Geert Wilders has played very well on that. Yeah. And a general dissatisfaction with politics, that people don't see that their daily lives are affected in a positive way by what people are doing in parliament.
And speaking of the demissionary Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, media and rumors say that he has very good chances to become the next Secretary General of NATO. How do you see this development affecting the Netherlands?
Yeah, then I do feel a bit nationalistic, that I do feel proud that a Dutch person, Mark Rutte, who is a very capable politician, you might disagree with him or you agree with him, but he has been very capable in the position. And he's a giant supporter for Ukraine. I think for the future of Europe and the future of Ukraine, it is very important that he becomes the Secretary General of NATO. He has shown his great cooperation with Zelensky, with the government of Ukraine, has been a front runner when it comes to military support for Ukraine in the Netherlands, but in general, people in the world can be happy if he gets to be the Secretary General of NATO.
And what is the feeling of the Dutch people about it?
I think a lot of people have the same feeling as I have, like, oh, we're such a small country, and that someone from the Netherlands becomes Secretary General. I think there is some pride in that. If you're going to ask people on the street right now, that some people feel it's a bit opportunistic to leave the Netherlands, to take this new next top job, which is a pity that politicians are viewed that way. I do believe that someone like Mark Rutte and many politicians do it because they really believe in something. In lots of countries you see a general distrust towards politicians, and I've seen in politics that actually a lot of people care about the issues they're fighting for.
And do you think that will help the Netherlands reach the 2% GDP contribution to NATO?
Yes, yeah. I think you already see a good development now. We are spending more money on our defense budgets, and the parties that are traditionally more pacifist, you could say, are realizing that pacifism is a privilege. Parties like GroenLinks, Greens, that they are also saying, no, we have to support our military. It is important for our safety and security of Europe.
Now I would like to ask you something more personal.
Okay.
And it's something related to the LGBTQ+ community. If I'm correct, you're part of the community.
Yes.
You might know that in Ukraine, the acceptance for LGBTQ+ people is not as big as perhaps in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Have you had any encounters with refugees or people from Ukraine who are part of the community? And what is your view, perception of how things are in Ukraine?
Yeah, I've never been to Ukraine, but I did meet a lot of LGBTIQ+ people who are from Ukraine and are living in the Netherlands now. Some came here to study, some came here to live a life where they could live more freely. I think it's interesting how it became such a topic, also related to the war, that Russia and Putin are really using it as a weapon, and to make it sound like Europe, including Ukraine, are so liberal and are starting a fight on the traditional family, when dictators want to get the support of their people, that they use marginalized communities, and that can be migrants. In the Netherlands that happens a lot, or LGBTQI+ people as a scapegoat in order to cover their own terrible ruling.
Am I correct to say that Netherlands were the first country to allow gay marriages?
Yeah. In the Netherlands, same-sex marriage was legalized in 2001, and then indeed it was the first country to make that legal.
23 years have passed.
Yeah.
Could you please give us any advice about how Ukraine could improve its current civic and legal policies in regards to same-sex marriages or acceptance of LGBTQ+ people in general?
Often people think when we talk about the rights of LGBTIQ+ people or women's rights that we're talking about special rights. But that's not the case. We're talking about human rights for all people. The right to live your life the way you want, the right to not be discriminated against, or to have a family. You do not have to support LGBTI rights. You're supporting human rights for all people.
That's a really clear and good message to remember.
And that's something very European and something we share, I would say. The values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. And human rights play a really central part there.
Let's talk about your style. So we know that you're a person who really enjoys wearing fashionable clothes, like today. We also know that you possess one vyshyvanka?
Two.
Two
I possess two now, and I wear them all the time.
At what point you decided to explore Ukrainian fashion?
People often question the clothes that I'm wearing because I choose not to wear like a blue suit with a tie in a space where often people do wear that. In politics, in parliament, you see all men wearing a blue suit with a tie, while the women can be very diverse. They can wear different colors, they can wear different styles, they can wear a dress, they can also wear jeans. and it's very different for men. And I think by just wearing what I want to wear, I like to challenge the systems a bit. And it's not so much as a political decision as well as something that just comes from myself, something I really enjoy. I like to be creative, I like to challenge the norms a bit, and this is one way of doing that.
Have you ever feared challenging the norms? Did you always feel comfortable just walking out in the parliament, such an important place, not looking like others?
Yeah, that's a good question. That has been difficult at times. When I open my email after a debate that maybe was aired on television, then there will be so many emails of random people who are very homophobic often, or who are saying very nasty things about the way you look. I think especially women get that all the time. I hear that from my female colleagues who are members of parliament. Only when I go to different places, if I would meet you, for instance, or if I would go to a bar, then people would come up to me and say, "Oh, I finally feel represented. All those men in suits don't represent me. That is not what I feel represented by." And now I can see that politics is also for me. And when I get a comment like that, that really touches me. It makes you realize what you are doing it for. Yeah, and it seems really simple, clothing, but it's one way to show your identity and who you are.
That's very true. That speaking from the heart, vyshyvankas is something that is almost like Ukrainian DNA.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a part of Ukrainian DNA in you now?
Yeah, maybe. That's a good one. The Ukrainian clothes I have now, they all come with a story. My close friend Maria, she brought it from Kiev, so I'm very happy and proud to wear it. The clothes that I got a lot of comments on were styled by a Ukrainian stylist, Uliana Mirodan. She helped me with it a bit. I told her what my style is, and she helped me to find some vintage clothing, also like this. So I'm very thankful for that.
How did you meet her? How did you come across?
Through Maria, my friend. They're both from Kupiansk. Mm-hmm. I know so many people from Kupiansk all of a sudden, the whole community.
Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. We had the night of the election, and everyone in the Netherlands, including me, was shocked by the outcome of the elections. And it meant that I was not coming back as a member of parliament. That night I was getting drunk because I was so depressed, and I was getting drunk with a friend of mine who owns a restaurant, and she asked me, "What are you going to do now? Now you're unemployed, basically." And I said, "Well, I think someone should start the first Ukrainian restaurant in Amsterdam." And she said, "Shall we do it?" She knows a lot about food and about wines and about the business in Amsterdam. I know a lot of Ukrainian people. And the next day we started recruiting people from Ukraine, hiring chefs to create the menu, and we wanted to create a space where Ukrainian and Dutch identity and culture meet each other. And it's beautiful to see that people from Ukraine and from the Netherlands are meeting every night and are enjoying the food and wines and beautiful Ukrainian art in the restaurant.
What is your favorite food item on the menu?
I would say the vareniki. The vareniki, I feel I can eat it for lunch, I can eat it for dinner, I can eat it as a dessert, as a meal. I really love it, and there's so much variety in it. I enjoy that. And the banosh. I had the banosh for the first time last week, and I'm trying to get the chefs to put it on the menu.
The time of the pop-up restaurant is coming to an end.
Yes.
What are the results so far, and maybe any news you could share with us?
Well, we had thousands of guests. Every day we have been pretty much packed. Sometimes we had waiting lists on Friday and Saturday especially. And like I said, it's 50% Ukrainian people who come to visit the restaurant and 50% Dutch people. I'm proud that a lot of Dutch people have been trying Ukrainian food for the first time and they are liking it. And that Ukrainian people come in and say, "Oh, you have salo, you have the salo spread. Oh, can I get more? That's great to see. Our final day will be on the 11th of May, so people need to make a reservation quickly if they haven't been there yet. And I'm now figuring out with the team, especially with the chefs, if there is some future possible. We're very happy with what we have built now. We have a great team. People are happy with the food and the atmosphere we're providing. We're going to see if and in what way it can have a future. Yeah, and Ukrainian people themselves should start restaurants and catering businesses. People are going to stay here probably a bit longer still, or maybe indefinitely, and then it would be great if the entrepreneurial spirit of Ukrainian people that they all have, if we can see that and we have Ukrainian restaurants in every city.
That's a great call to action. More Ukrainian restaurants, more Ukrainian food.
I would love that.
Here I have a book of a Ukrainian poet. His whole name is Dali, and his actual name is Maxim Krivtsov. Joined the Armed Forces of Ukraine, first as a volunteer back in 2014-2015, and later after the full-scale invasion in 2022. Unfortunately, he passed away in the beginning of this year. Both of you have been living in The Hague. So he's also been living here briefly for some time, and he wrote some poems about The Hague as well. Some of his poems are very romantic, and some are funny, some want to make you cry. And I would actually like to read you one about a fellow companion of Maxim, a ginger cat, who's been with him even in the trenches. Do you have any pets, perhaps?
Yes, I do many, actually. Yeah, many different kinds. My son loves pets, so our house is filled with them.
Maybe then especially you will like this poem. I will read an excerpt that has been translated into English. It's called My Ginger Tabby. When he falls asleep and slowly stretches his front legs, he dreams of summer, dreams of an unscathed brick house, dreams of chickens running around the yard, dreams of children who treat him to meat pies. My helmet slips out of my hands, falls in the mud. My cat wakes up, squints his eyes, looks around carefully. Yes, they're his people, and falls asleep again. I would like to give this book to you.
That's really meaningful. Thank you so much. I am going to bring it to the restaurant, I think. So also all the people who are working there or coming to visit, they can read the poems as well.
Perhaps a poetry session.
That would be a good idea indeed. And then maybe they can translate some for me as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
really
much.
kind of you.
Thank you.
And Slava Ukraini, yeah?
Героям слава.
Yeah.